Showbiz Shelly here in the hotel room of Gerard Butler. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. So now can I call you Jerry, Gerard?
Good.
Jerry's good.
We go from there.
All right, I'll call you Jerry. So you have this movie coming out. What a spectacular film. Machine Gun Preacher comes out September 30th here in Chicago. I had the chance to see it. Such a powerful film. You know, for those, who don't know anything about it, why don't you talk about your character and what it's about?
Okay, so it's based on a true story.
Right.
About this man, Sam Childers, who was a gang member. He was a drug addict. He a lot of problems with violence. He was a robber, who then had this incredible transformation where he found God and got his life together, but still had that kind of sense of adventure and this need, I think, for danger. Who then he basically found himself in Africa in the middle of the Civil War and witnessed some horrific atrocities that happened down there, and decided to build an orphanage and also to build a church back in Pennsylvania to raise money for this orphanage. So built an orphanage down in Sudan and became involved in the Civil War. Decided to become almost like special forces. Yeah. So he was a preacher whilst going on these undercover armed missions to re-kidnap these kidnapped kids, because this army called the Lord's Resistance Army had this kind of renegade militia take those kids. They either kill them or they're mutilated, or they take them and turn them into child soldiers to fight the war for them. Mm-hmm. And it's unbelievable that this happens, and it's unbelievable that this man took it upon himself to do that.
Yeah, and like you said, based on a true story, you play a real guy. What kind of research did you have to do? I know you spent a little time with the family. What else did you do?
Yeah, so spent time with Sam. Spent time with his family, went and visited him where he lived, watched him preach. And then, I spent 24/7 with, 24/7, but a lot of time with at least 5 minutes a day, with his interviews in the background, because he's done a lot of interviews, because Sam loves to talk, as do I. And just listening to him and getting a sense of him. And then there's the creation that you have to make, which is not just Sam, but your version of Sam. And so I was studying other preachers even, and motorcycle gangs and stuff like that, to kind of get a wider picture of, because of course I hadn't seen him in his gang days. I mean, a lot of the stuff, he's not that anymore, so you have to kind of create all of that. In his book, and then other television interviews, and just, and then I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things forgetting.
What about, you have your accent. What was it like? Is it hard for you at this point to sort of do an American accent?
It takes work. I mean, it's doable, but it takes work. And that was another thing, by the way, because you normally do your regular American accent, but Sam don't talk like that. He got a much thicker accent, and it sounds like almost Southern, even though it's not. So you want to work at that to the level that you can do it and still feel natural and still recreate this very specific character, And so I did a lot of work on that, like I say, listening to Sam, and then I did dialect sessions every day. My dialect coach is actually, his name is Gerry Butler.
Is it really?
His name is Gerry Butler.
That's weird.
Yeah, and then the funny thing, and then the other team in the movie, my not my stylist, but my how would you call it? Basically the person that helps you.
Assistant. Okay.
Yeah, no, for clothes they help you on with your stuff every day.
Oh,
Make sure you have the right costumes.
Okay.
Costumer maybe. Mm-hmm. Costume assistant. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, my makeup artist and hair person all had the last name of Parker. Right, so there was Team Parker, and they made up these T-shirts, Team Parker, and then there were Team Butler. We were all together, but two Gerry Butlers, and we filmed in Detroit, where Gerry Butler, the soul singer, comes from, and then there is also Gerry Butler, a porn star. Not sure where he comes from.
You're kidding. So
no.
So you have all these weird sort of connections to this film. It seems like it was all meant to be.
It was all meant to be. Yeah.
And what about too? In this film, you do so many harsh scenes. I mean, there's killing scenes and scenes where you do drugs. How do you sort of get in that mindset to do this?
Yeah, I mean, this was a tough movie to take on and do, but I think for any actor, it's exciting to take on that challenge. But you got to be ready to go go dark, And yeah, I mean, this is a guy who had breakdowns, you know, who went to the darkest places with drugs, you know, serious family issues, you know, and then had a massive breakdown, you know, to the point of suicide. You know, and just he went. I've never had a role where, and there aren't many roles I think where you can go through this wide gambit of emotions. So I use many things, you know, personal experience and my own sense memory, and then the power of this story. And I also walked around with a book full of pictures taken from Sudan, which very, very heavy, very shocking, which would always bring me right back to what this story was about. And it kind of drove me a little mad as well, you know, because as the movie went on, you kind of get sucked down and down, heavier into it.
Yeah,
you know.
I think so. And yeah, speaking of Sudan, you actually filmed in Africa, not Sudan, right? But you actually had the chance to go over there. What was that like?
Well, I love Africa generally. It's an incredible place to be, and South Africa is amazing. Not Johannesburg though; it's not my favorite place on the planet. But we weren't in Johannesburg. We were about an hour outside, so you know you still get a really tribal feeling from the people, and in fact they are all in different tribes, and so working with the kids, it doesn't even make sense how beautiful these children are, you know, physically, you know, their faces, but also their spirit. And I loved hanging out with these kids. I that was the best thing about the movie for me. And then when you realize the subject matter of this movie is about kids who are taken away at a young age and either, you know, forced to commit terrible atrocities, to, you know, sometimes to their own families. You know, they're forced to kill their own families, and forced to kill other children, forced to go in a village. I mean, you meet kids who've killed 60, 70 people. You know, they're given these guns, and there you go. Kids who've been mutilated and sexually enslaved, and you're looking at these kids going, and I'm remembering you being a kid and how wondrous the world was, and how full of fear you could be about just going to school, and then you imagine what must it be like to be a child like that, living with that fear on a daily basis, or actually experiencing that. It doesn't even make sense, and that's when it gets, you know, that's when you're in the place that you need to be.
Absolutely. And has the Childers family seen the movie yet?
They did.
Yeah?
They did.
So is that a little extra added pressure? Do they critique you after what they think? Or?
Yeah. I mean, they I got to say, they seem really very happy with it. And I know I'd heard Sam. I mean, the writer Jason Keller, who worked very closely with Sam for a long time, he called me after, and he's like, "Dude, I just was there for we screened the film to the family," and he was like, oh, he said he loved it. He says, and Lynn, who's Sam's wife, pulled him aside, you know, and said, "He got Sam. He got Sam.
Yay,
he
good.
nailed it."
Yeah.
So, because without a doubt, you want to, you know. You want to do justice to the man and his story, but we never shied away from the darker side of that character, because he's more of an anti-hero. He's not the perfect man. He can be a mean son of a bitch,
yes,
you know, and he has a dark side, and he can be, you know, I mean, in his own family, he was very neglectful in a lot of ways, and although these are all the things that helped him to do what he had to do, but we never shied away from showing the, you know, a more kind of holistic view of what happened.
And Jerry, I gotta say, you do so many different types of roles. This is just one type. You've done animated films, you know, voices for characters in animated films, The Bounty Hunter. How do you pick these roles? How do you decide what you're gonna do?
I kind of always like to try and move into new territory. There's only so many new territories you can move into, but just not to repeat myself very often. You know, so yeah, I mean, I wanted to, after having done action, I wanted to try. I see them all as almost different leagues. You know, and it's like, yeah, you're doing well in the action league, so it's like, hey, let me jump into comedy and see how I do there. You know, and musicals, you know, playing the Phantom, and now serious drama, and learn from each of them, and it gives you a chance to constantly be excited by each story. You're not saying, okay, I've done this before, you know, I'll just, okay, I'll put on this switch, that switch. You know, it's like, I don't know how to do this. You know, oh my God, how do I do this? You know, yeah.
So what's the best, worst part of, because I would say you're an A-list actor now, what's the best and worst part about entering this world?
I think the worst part would be probably paparazzi.
Yeah.
They really get in the way. They're a bit of a nightmare because and they happily get in the way. You know,
I saw pictures from you over the weekend at a friend's house or something. And
I think it was my house. I mean, recently they've been camped outside my house. So you think, because you kind of go, well, the second you leave your house, that's it. If they want to follow you, they follow you anyway. But then when they start taking photos of you in your house, you go, you know what? Can I even have to be careful of what you're doing in your own house? So that's a pain. But to be honest, I mustn't grumble because I love what I do.
Right.
But the thing that I love most is acting. I love telling stories, and getting into it. So, and that's what happens. The more successful you become, the more access you have to great material, great directors, other actors. Yeah.
And real quick, I'm getting the wrap up, but I came across this picture of you with a Blackhawks hat on. Do you remember wearing this? The Blackhawks hat for our 2010 Blackhawks champions?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is what they won. This was last year, I think. And I saw this picture and I said, I have to show this to you.
Yeah.
When, are you a Blackhawks fan? Chicago sports fan?
Not, to be honest. No, I think I've been given that by a friend of mine from Chicago as a present. Yeah. And I really liked the hat. Yes. So
don't be embarrassed. I just thought I wanted to just clarify and see if you were.
I'm like, I remember going, well, this is a cool hat.
I think you were in this movie when you were wearing it, I think it says. So.
I think I have a whole bunch of Chicago. I have Cubs hats, Bears hats.
Oh, yeah?
So really, I should be a Chicago everything fan because all my favorite baseball hats are, Chicago hats.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it. And you know what? I know you're Scottish, and I don't know how long you're going to be here for. But in case you didn't have a chance to try our deep dish pizza, I actually got you one. If you would like to take it with you. It's from Lou Malnati's. It's my favorite. Have you had it yet here?
Actually, I have had deep dish.
Yes?
Long time ago.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, in case you didn't, I don't know how long you're in town for, but in case you don't, you pop it in an oven if you can find one, and then it's very good. Lou Malnati's.
Let's go. We'll share it.
I would love to. Absolutely. For sure. So, Gerard, thank you so much for coming through Chicago. And again, Machine Gun Preacher in theaters September 30th. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. That was nice.
Thank you very much.